So very warm welcome, and this subject of the retreat, Smriti, in English translated as awareness, and it would be interesting to explore just this, the translation and the depth of it. And one quote I'd like to share with you, this is Aristotle said, the ultimate value of life depends upon awareness and the power of contemplation rather than upon mere survival. So it seems clear, definitely, our quality of life and purpose of life, and question about awareness comes up a lot in spirituality. So we have 3 days to focus and go into the depth. I'm really looking forward to it, welcoming your thoughts, questions as we go along. And going to pass over now to Prashant, and good evening. Prashant is coming into the sound world. Yes, you're unmuted now. But we can't hear you, so that's interesting. At least I can't hear you. Not sure if there is some technical problems we need to be more aware of. Yes, try again.
Yes.
Very good. Congratulations. Managing the technology. It's a learning curve for everyone.
So hello and good evening from here, and very welcome. Nice to meet again. Let us create a few more minutes of silence and attention. And always we follow the procedure. And our first step is we check if we are using the best intellect. If we have the best intellect, we have the option to use it. When we use the word paras, that is God-like kind of intellect. And so we have the option to use paras. Game changes completely the moment we use paras. What happens? The alokik dimension becomes alive. And the entire physical world appears small. When we use the word story, it just means it is small. Small in size also, small in significance. And it appears short in time. And our dimension is different. We are seeing the timelessness of our world. And that world is subtle, invisible, divine, alokik, unearthly, and eternal. Paras can handle this. Stone intellect misses it completely. That's why stone intellect is stuck in that story world, day in and day out. That's why the game changes so much. It's like you are 180 degrees in a different position. This Paras environment helps the soul to become conscious. So just by seeing this dimension may not be the big achievement, which is nice to see that dimension, but that paras environment shifts the consciousness. The soul wakes up. Until then, ego is the king. Ego is conscious. Soul that is conscious, he sees himself as a presence. He understands his complete independence from the story. Independence in every respect. Just like anyone would say, he is independent from all the stories in this world. His life is not mixed with any story. So also the invisible soul understands his complete independence. Right now, this gathering is happening, Zoom gathering, Prashant, that is also part of the story. The invisible soul sees himself as an invisible player, involved with the story, observing the story, but 100% independent from the story. This paras intellect is not deceived. Stone intellect, you start mixing your life with anything. In a story, it's so absurd to mix one's life with a story. All we have done, use the right intellect. And in a first minute, game changes. The soul is conscious, he is observing his freedom. Story cannot harm him. Story is harmless. Many things happen in the story. It cannot harm him even the slightest. He also understands his world. He is also subtle, alokik, eternal. He sees himself as a presence right now. He is observing all this. We are seeing the perspective from that soul. He is seeing this, I know what is happening, this is great. One episode within the story. But at the same time, he is aware of his world beyond. Expanse of light. He is aware of his true family of souls. They also are like stars. Each one sees oneself as a presence. Different. So different to the things of the story. This is the world of the father and the family. All subtle, all alokik, all immortal. But this is a true family. We are just, it is like a reset. Just checking that we are seeing from the highest perspective And as we continue on our journey in the sky, on earth, it is the journey of this invisible player. He remains awake to this beautiful truth. Thank you. So it is nice, a little checking for us. We are getting this first step, the invisible player becoming conscious and getting it right in the first minute, literally. Because if the invisible player is not conscious, ego is conscious. And ego has no problem in making spiritual efforts as long as he survives. That is a big success of ego. So it can be ego-based spiritual efforts, and then it's a different game. Ego will project itself. Ego doesn't come as I'm ego. Ego is based on the story. It is projected on the role or something within the story. So it appears Prashant is making spiritual effort, and that can go on forever. Prashant will never become the soul. But the game here, when we start with the best intellect, you are seeing the soul independent, and let the soul become conscious. Only soul can become soul conscious. Excellent. So we will be taking up the subject today, of our subject of today. Since it is a gathering, we all have met before, so we encourage interaction, the encouragement to come in the camera, those who are comfortable, that is, it becomes a proper, and reduces the distance. Appreciate that. Also type your comments, questions. And these are questions of many others also. So that's why encouragement in that way. So I will be using the board. And the word used, we will take this subject of Smriti, but the word awareness. This word Smriti is used by Baba a lot. It gets translated in different ways. Awareness sometimes, and remembrance sometimes, consciousness. It has different meanings, but English can get a little bit, the flavor of the word can change. Awareness is let us take this English meaning of the word awareness, very, very relevant function within us. This soul has got this amazing active functions, cognitive functions. Ordinarily in psychology, they might talk a lot on thoughts and positive thinking, this kind of a language that is used. But there are many other functions going on. They are very important for us, and we need to know. Awareness is one of them. And what does awareness mean? Awareness is not active thought. Awareness is some function going on in the person in the background. For example, right now, you are not actively thinking that you are right now based in London or you are in New York. You are not thinking of it, but that awareness is there. You are not thinking that you are from a certain company or certain job, but background awareness is there. So there is awareness of place, awareness of time. At any time you are aware whether it is morning right now or evening right now, that awareness is going on. Awareness of whether you are male, female. So these functions are going on, but as we said, it is in the background. You are not actively thinking, that New York, you are not doing this, but that is going on, that function is going on. You may notice in yourself sometime, if you have to wake up, especially during the day, if you were asleep and you wake up, and for a few seconds, you don't know whether it is morning or evening, what is happening. And after a few seconds, you understand what is going on. Or you may not even know which place is it, especially if you are traveling. Sometimes, one time I was traveling, and each morning I would be in a different place, a different city, and or every few days I'm in a different place. And when you wake up, you never knew, for a few seconds, possibly for a minute, you never knew where you are, and it took some time to figure out, okay, I are at this place, this kind of thing. So awareness of place, awareness of time, and so these are like different functions that are going on in us. So if a person is has met with an accident and head injury, and he is in the accident department, hospital, the doctors would like to check where is his awareness. So they might ask him a question, what is your name? And some might say, I don't know. What is the time? They might say, I don't know. And that gives you an idea that there is there's a problem there. As at some level there may be confusion, but confusion increases, and then person loses the awareness and loses deeper functions. He may create thoughts. You may ask him to think about it. He can think, but awareness is lost. Awareness of the posture of the body. So we are aware in the body. You are not seeing it. Even with closed eyes, you can say whether your leg is bent or leg is straight. You can know, you can change your fingers, position of the fingers. Awareness of the sensations. Important here is you are not actively thinking, but that function is going on. So that is broad awareness. And by itself, in a spiritual context, it might not mean a big achievement just to be aware. There are some spiritual traditions that say, be aware of the body, that body exists. Or in mindfulness, they say, be aware of the present moment.
I think we're aware of the present moment, but lost Prashant. I'm not sure if Prashant can hear over here. Not sure if I'm frozen too. Prashant may come down. So if you have any questions that have come up so far, that would be really very nice. Any thoughts come Okay, good. So I think you can hear me. So we'll connect soon with Prashant.
Still here? So some change of scene, technology. Yeah, excellent. So we were seeing that this function of awareness, but awareness of I. Is that okay? This light?
Do you want it more?
Yeah, it's better as long as it is. Yeah, it's better. So awareness of I. What does this mean? Say you are asked, who are you? And you may have a very clever answer to this, and you may often answer with the name, or or if you are having spiritual knowledge, you might say, I'm a soul. So there is that is a clever, and intelligent answer, which is great. But all the time, everyone on this planet, whether he even has thought about this question, philosophical question, he has this function within him of who am I? Just like there is awareness of place or awareness of time, in the same way, awareness of I. So person is walking, he may have the awareness, I am a male or I'm a female. Just that awareness, I'm walking. Or I am, if he's in his work kind of environment, company place, or he might have the awareness based on his job. I'm the boss of this place, I own this, I am the manager, and some kind of awareness. One girl, she gave the example. She said her mother had died and she was going to work. And when she's at work, she's quite happy, everything going very well. She comes home and she says, I cry all the time. The whole time I cry. Next day she goes home to work and she's completely okay. She could be smiling, laughing, joking. Comes home, she's crying. What is happening there? When she's at work, her awareness of I changes. That work environment reminds her that she is the whatever director of that company, whatever that identity, and that is going really well. That is when she comes home, that home environment reminds her that she is the daughter. The awareness changes. And for the daughter, there is a problem. The daughter, mother doesn't exist. So that identity has a big loss. This function of I is what we call Smriti. So the word Smriti that is used, it is in this context. It is the description of
who am I? And we don't have a nice word in English for that. And that's why it is good to understand the way it is used. And as long as we know there is awareness, that function going on in us all the time, it is not, as we said, it is not just knowledge. It is not information. So it can happen in us. We have heard the ideas, we tell others about the knowledge of the soul, but at the practical level, what is the function of Smriti? It may be based upon being a spiritual student, or the Smriti function may be based on being a teacher, even, being one who is, it can be based on anything, it can be based upon you got some great talent, in the spiritual, you are kind of involved with the spiritual institution and you are serious, sincere, but this function is going on by its own, speed, and you can create a Smriti that I am an artist, I am the one who does all this art for the center, and you create this identity inside. And but this function moves. It is not a full-time function. In one environment, one kind of company, one Smriti comes to the surface. Another gathering, another Smriti comes to the surface. One friend of ours, he tells a nice story. He was in school. This is, of course, when he was young in London, and he's doing very good. He's a good student. But one day, he said, his parents were, teacher has invited the parents. So there were parents, there was a teacher, and his school friends. All three were there, and he was to meet them all together. He was in front of these three. And he said, it is the worst experience for him, as if he was paralyzed completely. He couldn't speak anything. He just wanted to run out of this place. And what exactly happened? In this, it is like, with the teacher, he was a student, he had this identity very clear. The Smriti was, I'm a student, and when he comes home, there is a identity of being the nice, special son. And when he's with friends, it is a different identity. And when all these three were together, there was an absolute collapse, confusion. Which one? These are three different I within the same person. And he literally felt it was the worst thing. He can't forget this. And he had to just come out of it to recover from that experience. I know you might have some things to say or ask. We'll get the other device in action, then we'll have things to speak.
There is a question. Hope you can hear well.
Sure.
From the Spanish group, not sure if translated well, but conceptually, is Smriti more limited? It says limited dimension. Not sure if.
Sure.
Get the idea.
Smriti, we want the Smriti to be based on the soul, because ultimately the truth, any of these, like for example, if I'm in New York, the awareness should be I'm in New York. And we give the example in some situations like sleep and those kind of situations. I might say, I don't know where I am. But in some conditions, which is more abnormal functions, in psychosis kind of conditions, he may be in New York and he thinks he is in Paris or something like this, and very convinced. So these are like abnormal functions. Awareness can go. We create an abnormal awareness. It may be morning, but he thinks it is night, and so he plans things, and no one can convince him that it is different. These are abnormal. So also Smriti can be abnormal, Smriti. So what we are really saying, the spiritual institution, what it wants to bring to the world is, at present we are in a wrong Smriti. Function itself is wrong of this who I am. Knowledge may be right. Someone may be telling others we are souls, we are souls. That is full marks for understanding it and explaining. But function of Smriti is another thing. And so the word Baba uses for that is Vismriti. As if something inside has become unconscious. If the truth is lost, that you, the soul you, has become unconscious. And some other, there are Smriti, as we are saying, limited Smriti, Smriti based on, and as we said, job, or based upon people, and I'm husband of someone or I'm wife of someone. This can be active Smriti. Person wakes up with awareness. I am the son of some famous person. I'm the son of the president, or I'm the wife of the president. This can be the Smriti of the person, and very convinced. And one time we were having a gathering here in Cambridge, and we're talking about, this the journey of the soul and the soul's our dysfunction of Smriti. And this person raised his finger, raised his hand, from the gathering. He said, yes. And he said, but I'm professor here. So how can I not be professor? I will of course see myself as a professor. So we said, okay, there was a time you are not a professor, but you existed. And next year you might not be professor. You might be prime minister, but may not be professor. So you exist. Professor is some role, part you are playing. And there is something behind this role. So it appeared he understood, and we were going on. And after another 10 minutes, he raised his hand again. And he said, everyone knows I'm professor. And that was a bit of a funny thing. And it is interesting to know and to observe. He said, everyone knows. It is not just everyone knows, everyone sees him as a professor. And we are having this very innate programming that crowd is always right. If everyone is seeing you as a professor, then you are a professor. If everyone is seeing you as a German, then you are German. You accept this, and I want Smriti for you. And this may be one of the main reasons why we are in Vismriti. So we may know even, this is why this gathering, we know, we are telling others, and we meet here like this, because some basic things about the soul and the reality of the soul, we have understood it. And we might think that we are doing it the best, but the function may not be in that highest Smriti function. We may be actually in Vismriti. I don't know if that question is answered, but as long as we know there can be limited smriti based on limited things of the story, it can be based upon the unlimited, that is the soul. Let us see if we can go back to my laptop, my device. Not that I'm attached, but it is more convenient. Thank you.
Let's see if you have any other questions. I see one coming up already on this topic. Especially if being a spiritual student, is this right, Smriti? So I'm just going to make sure Prashant can unmute. And come into sound. Okay, good. Ah, not sure if we can hear you though. Oh yeah, okay.
Okay.
It's yes, it's struggling a bit, but let's see if it works. So far, so good. So please continue.
Yes. Any questions?
Yes, so the last question we had here, if I can find. Smriti, that I am a body, we can see that happens, but the Smriti based on being a soul, which is based on knowledge. Question, how to believe that I have a home beyond this physical world without actually being there. Is the question clear?
Yeah. No, that is the part of knowledge, and that we have to go through. And the first 10 Sanjivani sessions, they address that. So those who have not done the sessions, complete sessions, we need to go through them, recordings of it, revision, that is necessary. But once we have come to that conclusion, if we say very clear, where we understand, yes, that is obvious, and this is the temporary story here. You may be playing part in the story. Then even an actor who is acting in a drama as whatever, he may be acting as a king, he will not create smriti based on the king. He may create a smriti based on being an actor even, but not the king. So here also we are playing the part. We understand this. It's a part, and there is an invisible actor. And only smriti that is legitimate is to be in that invisible actor. The moment we come into the smriti based on the story, it becomes vismriti. And just to see that function, the emphasis here is that we have the knowledge, we agree with it, but the real results come when it is translated into this function of awareness.
You actually mentioned earlier that in English, sometimes it gets translated as remembrance. Is it a good translation in any context? Or can it be, what about translation as remembrance of who one is? Would that be a good way of understanding it?
Yeah, as was said, once you translate, especially the word like this, it loses its power. Because even here, for example, if Smriti is just translated into awareness, then awareness is such a broad word and it can be interpreted in so many ways. And then you can end up just by doing something like mindfulness, and thinking that it's the same as something else, awareness of the body or something else. So even thinking of the soul, that is not change of Smriti. Smriti is who I am. It is a function to observe that who I feel I am at this time. Sometimes people ask, who you think you are? So it is like that. Who you think you are? This is a question we should ask ourselves.
Just would be good to have a little more clarity on the meaning of Vismriti, if that's possible.
Yeah, it is just wrong. We can say wrong Smriti is Vismriti. But in the culture, that Vismriti is one translation of that is being unconscious. So, and in this case, that real you is not even there. If say there is a prince in a town, in a kingdom, there is a prince, and if he completely forgets he's a prince, he thinks he's somebody else, he's a manager, for whatever reason, he thinks he's a manager, and he has lost the awareness that he's the prince. Then it is like as if that prince has become unconscious. Zombie, he is moving around doing some things, but he is completely forgotten that he's prince. We give the example sometimes in a sleep-like state, or when there is injury, when there is a confusion, head injury, a function of awareness is affected. At present, when we are using the word body conscious world, Ravan's world, from copper age, this big drop that happens at the function of Smriti. It is a big shift that happens. It is almost like the prince. Soul is like a prince, eternal prince. He is not connected. He is not aware that he exists. And he is defining himself based on successful businessman, or he is the head of the department, and he's a great scientist, great artist, but not the immortal and angelic prince that he has forgotten.
Okay, there are quite a lot of questions coming up, but maybe if you want to complete on the subject and some of the questions may be answered as well, and we can come back to some of them.
Sure.
If that's okay.
So here, if we come back to our very useful image, and something of this kind, we need this as a repeated reminders. So here we are seeing that the journey of the invisible soul is temporarily associated with this great story, great performance. At present, the starting position is something different. And what is the starting position? We have crossed this line. This dotted line is line of ignorance. In this box here is the story world. Lots and lots going on within that. We are associated with many, many things. And then in a society where everyone is confused, they see you not as a invisible traveler. They are not seeing you like that. They can't even see that exists. They all see you by the body, by the role, by your hat, by your rank, by your stars. Maybe by your car. That is what they see, and that is the way they refer to you also. They treat you like based on those things of the story. They completely ignore you. Just as we're saying, how people see you, that affects that professor. Everybody sees him as a professor. He's trapped. He feels, of course, that is me. And in the same way, here, they may not all see you by your role, but some people have got a name even based upon relations. Wife of someone, son of someone. And many of these names are like that, based on other people. So identities are, society is giving you these identities. And that's why we all are locked into that, Smriti. And as a spiritual student, we can still continue in it and not realize that that is an abnormal place to be in. To have a Smriti based on being a whatever spiritual student, that is also not the destination. It may be a step. It is whether we like it or not. If you are involved with the spiritual organization and if you are making spiritual effort, there will be some identity based on that. But that is not the destination. That is a springboard. From that position, we have to come to the awareness of this invisible prince who exists behind all this. Now, what is the big deal about this invisible prince? There are two things that happen. It is not just one person sees himself as a professor and another sees himself as a soul, but okay, they are all nice people. No, there is some repercussions of these two identities. What are these repercussions? When you are seeing yourself as a soul, you immediate, if that Smriti is there, not just knowledge, if the Smriti is there, the feeling will come that you need nothing. You exist forever, timeless existence, right now. Then to come in that awareness that the soul is from different world. Soul is not from this physical world. Soul exists. He is from this eternal world beyond. And this world did not even exist when the soul came here. The soul existed before Prashant existed. So you are understanding that he exists without needing anything. He doesn't need oxygen, he doesn't need air, he doesn't need this physical universe at all for his existence. He needs nothing. This realization is a very, very powerful thing, because the moment you realize that you need nothing, you also become free. There's no desires about anywhere, and you are never a beggar, never a slave. In other words, in any other smriti that you are in, there is a beggar there. There is some kind of a need, because it is based on temporary things of the world. As I was giving the example, the smriti based on being a daughter, at least she needs the mother to be alive. If the mother is not there, then daughter also dies. The identity, that smriti dies, smriti suffers. So each of these, there is the beggar element. It prefers, there are preferences, there are expectations. Here, the soul realizes he needs nothing. Second realization for him, that nothing in the three worlds can ever harm him. Beyond harm. Worth writing this down, because this is what soul consciousness is. If anyone is soul conscious, even for 1 minute, during that minute, worth underlining this, that you need nothing from anywhere. He doesn't need the body to start with. Quite happy to find food for the body, quite happy to get a hat for the body, but starting position is he doesn't need the body to start with. And nothing in the three worlds can harm him, even the slightest. He exists forever. One philosopher, he put it nicely. He said he's not frightened of death. And his argument is, before I was born in this body, obviously I was dead. And it didn't create the slightest inconvenience to me. Life has been pretty good because I was dead before. It didn't create the slightest inconvenience. So this is the very clear experience of the soul who is conscious, that he is never a beggar and never a victim. What I am really emphasizing here, when we are in false smriti, when we are in vismriti, then we are forever seeing ourselves as potential victim. Someone can even say a word and that can be like a pain, just a word. Someone can do something and it can be some country somewhere maybe planning something, and you say, oh, what will happen to me? About how will it affect me? Leave aside some storms and death and destruction. In that, smriti is dying all the time, is afraid of harm. It lowers the quality of our life altogether. Victim is like the low denomination. Beggar is a low denomination, lowest denomination in any society. When you are in the soul, never a beggar, never a victim. And when you discover, that nothing can harm you, then your mind changes. You start seeing everything is fun, very interesting. We flip, our mind flips into the experience where everything appears fun. The world is fun. As an example, someone points a gun at you. A gun is a gun, so you might say, oh, am I a victim? And then you realize that the child pointing a toy gun at you. And then you are not seeing it as a victim anymore. You are not getting the emotions of a victim. You are seeing it as sweet, and you are seeing it as fun. It becomes a toy, it becomes a joke. Because that toy gun can't harm you. For the soul that is conscious, these black holes and the destruction and all that is going on in the terrorist, nothing can harm you, even the slightest. The story can disappear. It can't harm you, even the slightest. It's a different game altogether. So it is not slightly better quality of life. Within our ordinary, everyone is trying to have a slightly better life. They want to build a castle and remain safe behind. So they are relatively safe. Not many can harm them. But the one who is conscious in Smriti, he finds not just nothing can harm him. He finds everything is a joke and the energy of fun. And when you are in that space, in the fun, then whatever you look at, it appears like a gift. Right now, if in front of you there's a cloud, it appears like. This is what happens when someone is on holiday. He may come in that space in percentage, but local people may not be appreciating the cloud and the tree and the stones. But one who is a tourist, he appreciates them differently. Same thing happens here. When you are in that space and you feel there is nothing inauspicious in your mind. If the beggar is removed and victim is removed, there is nothing inauspicious. We mentioned in the past, if the mind has got, if a glass of milk has got one drop of poison, it becomes poison, not milk. Glass of milk with zero poison, then it is milk. So if mind has got a zero drop of anything inauspicious, that mind knows something different, experiences something different. And something similar happens here. This mind goes into a different flip. I'm using the word flip, just like coin. It is head or tail. Either you get a green or red. You don't get percentage. So also here, you are in one flip, ordinarily, when you come in that soul awareness accurately. Knowledge of the soul is one step, but soul awareness accurately and become free from this beggar and the victim in a true sense. Then you discover you are in a different flip. Auspicious. Then you know what God experiences. During those seconds, minutes, you know what Baba experiences. He's always in it. One aspect in that mind, everything is, auspicious, full. But in that mind, there is innocence. Because you don't need the street, you don't need to be streetwise, you don't need to be dexterous, you don't need the cleverness that people need here for survival. Everyone appears lovely, loving, and it is like a region of love. Others love or not, but that is what he finds. They're all lovely and loving. And there is a feeling of silent celebration. You are all staying at the subtle world has become normal and natural. Not just a meditation. For him, that is his world. And it is in the face of many things going on down below. There is a destruction going on, but he is in his own reality. Just Smriti had changed, and his world changes. And of course, if the mind has got no drop of poison, that mind knows the bliss of the Atma. Of course, he doesn't need to pretend to be good, pretend to be nice. There is a full intoxication, awareness, but he also knows everyone is like this. He's awake to this big reality. Everyone is from this noble family home. Truth of everyone is immensely good. But to experience it, we need this. We shift into the right Smriti that is required. What we say soul consciousness, it is the same thing, but just I'm emphasizing the function. All along, in that mind, no drop of poison. Means in this mind, there is zero complaint, and it is not just big vices are not there. There is nothing to complain, nothing to be concerned about, nothing to question. All these are drops of poison. Nothing to criticize. It is all, there is nothing of that energy. That energy is not there. If one is in that flip, the moment you are in the other flip, then it is just it can be spiritual gatherings, it can be spiritual life, maybe doing meditations and all. But if I am in that other flip, then it becomes ordinary in a real way, because you are having those little insecurities and things that can harm you. Victim is there, beggar is there, all those things are there in that Smriti. More we spend time in those false Smriti, they get bigger. We can be spiritual students, but we might be still feeding the wrong Smriti, and they can become stronger. As the years pass, they can become their own another obstacle. It is not a step towards the higher. It is the backward direction. Like they say, identity based on being a spiritual student or spiritual teacher. This is not a step towards soul consciousness. It becomes an obstacle to soul consciousness. It will be nice to hear some. You said there are many questions. some questions, and then we'll be having poll questions and then rooms also.
Yes, very good. So in connection with what you just shared, the question earlier was, if someone asks, if I have a Smriti awareness of a godly student, is that a right Smriti or the Smriti?
And as we said just now, and a good question, and everyone need to ask this question. It is not the destination. We will, of course, create a Smriti, and if you are playing the part, and others see you as a godly student, spiritual student, you end up creating an identity based on that. And but that is not our meditation. That is not the destination. Destination is to come in the soul awareness and come beyond the story. That invisible player, that is the right Smriti.
Thank you. I guess you've answered this also. Is the Paras intellect needed for this Smriti of the invisible prince? And connected question: how is the intellect and the Smriti working together?
Yes, good, very good. And if we are not using Paras, we use Patthar, stone intellect. And stone intellect means it is completely locked in the story world. So stone intellect, the story has become so big and important. It cannot see the subtle and alokik. That dimension doesn't exist for the stone intellect. So the reason we are in the present state is because of the prolonged period of soul, the stone intellect community. We all are using stone intellect and created a community like this. But it also shows how quick the shift can happen if we use the right instrument. And Baba sometimes has said, Raj Yoga is difficult amongst the difficult. This is the way Baba put it. Raj Yoga is difficult amongst the difficult. And the next sentence, it is the easiest amongst the easy. What makes it difficult? If you want to practice Raj Yoga with stone intellect, it is difficult amongst the difficult. It becomes all intellectual, because you are talking about soul, God, but the apparatus doesn't go beyond the drama, beyond the story. If you use Paras, make Paras strong, that is required. We have intention to use Paras, but Paras also has to be made strong. We have to build muscles. Now, then for the strong Paras, that is so obvious and normal. He says how strange to get caught in a story like this. It is almost like getting deceived, getting caught in a Mickey Mouse story. How bizarre. So he may be acting in the story, but he understands. He wants to maintain his sanity. Doesn't want to get deceived. Even though everyone else is in that direction, he protects himself. That's why Paras is almost a precondition here for us to bring about the change.
Just to clarify, in the morning Murli, it's said often that we are spiritual students, and he is a teacher. So what does Baba mean? Does he mean being in Smriti?
A spiritual student. And it is the soul who is the student. And he is teaching the souls. All the time you will hear Baba says, I speak to the souls, I see the souls, I love the souls. How often, Baba is emphasizing this. And we need to see that also. It is not that Baba says it, and we as if hear it and don't hear it, and think that I am the body, he's talking to me, the body. And then that is one. But we need to realize that he really means it. He's not talking to Cinderella, but he's talking to the invisible actor behind the Cinderella.
Yeah, I think that's clear. Maybe one more question that has come up from a little earlier. What is the relationship between Smriti and power?
Good, very good. And Baba plays with these words also, because one word for power is, one nice word. I'm trying to get this work. Samarthi, so slightly different spelling. And Samarthi is power. It is taking the example of the prince. If prince thinks he's a beggar, it means he's in Vismriti. Then he will not feel that he can easily, change anything. He can, speak to the king, because he says, I'm beggar, how can I do anything? Someone has to give me coins and then I will be happy. If the Smriti changes, the prince wakes up, realizes that he's a prince, and suddenly he realizes that he is a very powerful person there. He has a role to play. He wakes up to this big reality of who he is. So the power is there, but if the Smriti is not there, then that power is not used. So Samarthi is connected with Smriti. We said here, one who is a soul that is conscious, it is extraordinary. No one can have that kind of life where there is no drop of sorrow and nothing can harm him. What a powerful position. You don't need anything for your existence. He feels that he needs nothing. No one can deny him anything. No one can deprive him of anything. What a powerful position. Whereas if he's in another Smriti, he feels, no, he needs at least this and he needs that. How can he survive without this? He's slave to so many things. And slave is not powerful. Slave mentality makes him weak. Whereas when he comes in the Smriti of the soul, he discovers story is story. Story is going to change and story is going to end. He is not dependent on anything. He is deep inside free. And he chooses to be happy. He chooses to be loving. He chooses to be helpful. And that is powerful.
Thank you very much. Useful also to know that it is a play of words in Hindi language. So maybe this is a good time to take our pause, unless there's anything you wanted to say, but maybe a question for reflection would be good. And that something comes to mind.
Sure. And do you have intention for poll question?
Yes. So you can be thinking of the question. Let's see if we can work out how to do the poll. Oh, here we go. So there's a question that will come in your screen, and hopefully it'll be easy to answer. Maybe translators can translate the question, and the options would be very good. We'll leave it there for a few seconds. Okay. So don't worry if you haven't managed to answer. You can always put in the chat if you would like as a private message. So we'll just share the results for all of you. Thank you. It very much helps the team here with planning. So Prashant, would you like to suggest a topic or discussion?
Yes. The most important for us is the experience of the function of Smriti, and create time to understand how you understood the function of Smriti and difference between Smriti and Vismriti. What appears to be our spiritual effort, just check if it is accurate Smriti. Discussion is good, but I would like to emphasize it is a subtle function. You have to observe within yourself. Game can change, Smriti can change in a minute. So to observe that subtlety, what you feel you are. But the question is just to discuss on this function. It may be nice. Smriti and Vismriti, what is the contrast?
Yes, I think that's helpful to underline that it's a second by second function. So I think there should be some very interesting discussions. So as always, we'll be creating rooms, and if you're able to come into camera, it does help, and also create a feeling of meeting. If you're in the wrong room for your language, just press help, and hopefully we can sort it for you, and we'll meet back in about 10 or 15 minutes. So enjoy, and we'll see you soon. Welcome back. Did you find the conversation useful? Was it, did it help? And maybe you have some realizations you'd like to share? But just to consolidate, let's take this moment together to just get into this true Smriti and dwell on one of these beautiful points of that true Smriti, and then we'll join back again. Thank you so much. And let's see if we can clarify any more on this topic. I love the way that we are expanding understanding, even though there's no real word for this in English, and this subtle function, and especially that it's second by second, and this to become aware of it in a way. So being aware of being aware. And I really appreciated all the questions that came in. If we don't get time, we'll make a recording and put it in the G drive. So very stimulating. I don't know if Prashant wants to go straight into some Q&A, or if you'd like to create some time for practice.
Yes. Hi, welcome back. Let us create a few minutes of attention again. As was mentioned, it is a nice opportunity for us over the next 24 hours to observe that function, in a natural way. If you are with your some relations, try and see how you see yourselves in that situation. Do you see yourselves as a brothers? What is the identity at that time? If you are in an interfaith gathering, what is the Smriti in an immersed way? Yeah, nice to observe that function. And then compare it, how often, their soul awareness is there. Is there a Smriti of the soul at all? The word soul and the knowledge of the soul is full marks in that. Smriti of the soul means you are complete, foreigner on this planet. The invisible traveler, in a real sense, invisible traveler, not polluted by anything from the story. As if story is there and may not be there. The whole thing may not be there. You exist. That is that Smriti. So we are not just knowing the soul, or thinking of the soul. That can be done by other Smriti also. Nothing changes by that, because I can still be in. When we say body consciousness, it is all. Vismriti is that. Body consciousness is Vismriti. Your soul is not conscious. And in the body conscious state, I can think of the soul and I can talk about soul. That is no problem. But Smriti of the soul, it literally means you are seeing that this whole physical world, including Prashant, is part of the story, and you are observing this great story. And your world is beyond harm. This story cannot harm you, even the slightest. Paras is part of the important aspect of Paras. Is it is broad intellect and it includes unlimited intellect. That's why this physical world, it is massive, so big and so convincing. But Paras is not deceived by this. Paras sees it as small and very aware that it is to finish. Every episode finishes. Just like any other cartoon that you are watching, it can just finish, crash, and so what? It doesn't change your world. So one who is in that Smriti of the soul literally feels that invisible player is watching this physical film, is watching this whole physical world like a film. One who is watching is the invisible player. And the invisible player is not to be mixed with Prashant or anything else. That is part of the drama. So we are giving ourselves this contrast in a glimpse and seeing the wonder. If the soul comes in Smriti, he becomes conscious, then everything else changes for him. As was said, for one who is conscious, it is like coming out of a dream. He doesn't need to be told that you have home and you have father and you have this. He has woken up. So also here, this invisible player, he wakes up. It is, he discovers this world of wonder. Immortality is real to him, and everyone noble and everything auspicious. Beyond harm is a huge thing, because everyone in this world is so subconsciously so much concerned about loss and harm. Invisible player he can lose nothing and he misses nothing and he needs nothing. That's why life is fun. Every moment appears like a gift. But he knows of his world with the God, world of the true family. Ordinarily all invisible, but for him it is normal and obvious. They are all worthy and all worthy of love. This awareness, just being conscious in this, that actually makes it easy for others. Because this attention is like creating light. Baba uses the word lighthouse. Lighthouse only if there is awareness. That changes the game completely. If the person is in Vismriti, ego cannot be the lighthouse. So at least the soul has to be conscious. So we have influence. Just as the vision of others draws us into Vismriti, in the same way our vision can help others into Smriti. We are changing the game. So for the next, as we said, next 24 hours, we have the option to play with this, to observe is fun. That is also fun. Even though you may be not in Smriti, Vismriti, that's fine. But you are observing it. That is also positive. Then you know you understand the function of Smriti. And when you do come into, you observe why it is, what is going on. In contrast, once you have understood the contrast, it is easy to come in the right one. Yeah, happy to come to the questions. It appears not a lot of time, but.
Well, inadvertently you answered a few, I think, to be honest. So this should be quite easy. Yes, as you mentioned, I think we can probably all say we can sense like vision, the vision on the soul and how powerful it is. So the question, is it equally as important to see others as souls? Are these two components of the seeing the self, or the self being that invisible traveler, coupled with seeing others, is that necessary part of being in the right Smriti?
The answer is yes. They all complement each other. And if you see this, it is, that we all like to help others. Here, the help is at a grassroots level. If you put this right, then everything else will change for others also. And so there is extra incentive to play with this, and to make it more accurate.
Different question here. How would you say we can remain in Smriti or soul consciousness when there are scenes of violence, maybe even towards one's own associated role, and there may be pain, abuse, and in that moment itself, how is it possible even to remain in this true Smriti?
Yes, at this stage, we are, let us build the muscles when going is good. If there is peace now, make hay while the sun shines. As it becomes stronger now, then drama will provide different challenges. Then you will be able to experiment in those situations. But there is no other option. And ultimately we have to come in what is true. And whether it is peace or war, we have to get on with it.
Yes, and it feels like the more the Smriti is in that truth, the more naturally there is detachment, and then there would be the experience wouldn't be of this misery associated with the story. And is it true that there is Smriti is becoming more stable when the actions taken are creating more stability, peace, and well-being at the drama level? Is the question clear?
It is good to have the actions that are virtuous. They are good, but there are many people in this world doing very good actions, but there is no attention on the Smriti. And so it is a separate function which we need to pay attention to. To see and to know the radical nature of it, and some level of introspection is necessary. Know that it is fun and something that is refined, something accurate, but it has its own magic also.
Yes, keeping that attention light, even though it's a very subtle area, becoming more aware. Is it correct in thinking that being in Smriti, the right Smriti, finishes karmic accounts? Or what is the relationship?
Sure. In that all our, say, wrong sanskaras, wrong habits, its seed is Vismriti. In other words, the ego is the one that holds, that is the seed of all our wrong sanskaras. Whatever we do not like in others, that some behavior, some manners, its seed is the ego. And same thing within us, something that we don't like in ourselves, the seed is ego. All the past accounts, they are also there within the ego. So if you remove the ego, you remove all of this. If you remove Vismriti in a true sense, its seed is removed, that you remove all the past accounts, karmic accounts.
Very helpful. Something to reflect on, actually. But yes, very clear that it's at the seed level. A question that came earlier, what Smriti are we in when we are sleeping?
That time, in a sleep, if there is proper sleep, it is shut down. We can say it is neutral. There may be some Smriti going on during the dream. There is some identity going on that time. And that will be continuation of our waking state. But if dreamless sleep, it is neutral.
That's helpful. And it's a big subject, isn't it? So many angles. Now, we just had another question come in, perhaps, or another couple of questions. See how we go. If later on we understand the good intentions of an action that was done in the past, is it like a belated accurate Smriti?
Ordinarily, we don't have the accurate Smriti in our present world, and we almost need to understand this function and then create time to nourish it. And the other identities are very, very dominant.
And when we are practicing it, in a sense, it's replacing the wrong smriti. So it replaces those impressions. And that may be a helpful way we can change the seed, whichever was planted in the past, with the present smriti. I don't know if that really helps in the question, but maybe you can clarify in the chat. Does smriti emerge from our sanskaras, or what is the connection maybe between the two?
Tomorrow we will be seeing that in some more detail. It is more other way around, and smriti is the seed, and that function is the more powerful function, and the sanskaras are based on that.
Great. So maybe that's a good time to pause. And we do have a drill also for meditation reflection. But if you have anything you want to add, Vishant, as by means of contemplation or focus, which may be useful.
Yes, we have spoken already. Great is next, whatever time you have, just to observe. We are just highlighting that function that is going on within us. That is, we are saying it is important function, and maybe give some examples, but to observe them in oneself, and then see the contrast. What in the face of it, what does it mean? It's smriti based on the soul. Nice.
Thank you. That's very nice. I think it's like a workshop from now until we meet again that life provides free of charge. Be able to observe all of these things. And so we'll put the link again in the chat, which the recording will appear a couple of hours after this retreat finishes in the next few minutes. So thank you so much to everyone, and enjoy your homework, and we'll connect tomorrow.
家。